Hello everyone, I hope you had an amazing day. Today I'm going to share more thrilling stories with you. But before we start, please leave a like and subscribe so I can help you fall asleep again in the future. Also make sure to comment at what time of the night you're watching this video. Now, let's get into it. Lila woke up to the sound of soft whispers. They fluttered through the darkness of her small, creaky home like moths seeking light. First, she thought it was the wind, or maybe the old pipes groaning under the weight of the night. But the whispers grew louder, more distinct. Lila, her name crawled across her ears, sending shivers spiraling down her spine. She sat up in bed, clutching the frayed blanket up around her shoulders. Her room was bathed in shadows, but nothing seemed out of place. Yet the air was thick, oppressive. She reached for her bedside lamp, but the bulb flickered and popped, plunging her into deeper darkness. This wasn't the first time. For weeks, Lila had felt something was off. The creak of the doors when nobody was apparently there to open them. Objects moved just slightly, barely enough to notice, and then of course, there was that feeling of being watched. She had tried to tell her boyfriend Eric about it, but he coolly laughed it off. "You are imagining things. Just stop acting crazy," he said, sharp as the cut from a knife. These were whispers following her through the house, loud when Eric was not home, building into discordant voices calling her weak, useless, unworthy. At times she glimpsed flashes in the edges of her vision, elongated spidery shapes crouching along the walls. She did not look into mirrors much anymore, couldn't bear the way the reflections appeared distorted to her. But Eric, in the meantime, was pulling away. When he was there, his words cut, and his temper cut finer. Little things would set him off. A cup left on the counter, dinner late. Once he had shoved her against the wall, and though he was contrite later, the bruises lingered. She started to think that the entity, the thing haunting her, was somehow siphoning strength from the tension within the house. One night, the whispers blew up into screams. Lila sat bolt upright in bed, her heart hammering in her chest. Now the shadows were everywhere, across the walls like living things in writhing heaps. She stumbled into the living room, clutching at her chest as the air grew colder. "What do you want from me?" she screamed into the darkness. The shadows coalesced in front of her, forming a grotesque figure with hollow eyes and clawed hands. Its voice was a guttural growl, layered with countless others. "You will never leave," it said. She ran to the door, but it wouldn't budge. The thing laughed, a low, rumbling sound that vibrated through her skull. Desperate, she grabbed a knife from the kitchen, spinning to face the demon. "I'm not afraid of you." The figure surged toward her, and everything went black. The next day, the neighbors found Lila's body, and police came into a gruesome scene. She was crumpled in the kitchen, surrounded by shattered glass and broken furniture. The coroner declared it a tragic accident, perhaps a fall during a seizure, they said. But her friends weren't so sure. Then they found Eric. His knuckles were raw, his face impassive as they took him into custody. Bloodstains on his shirt matched the ones on Lila's lifeless body. The whispers had never been from a demon. The shadows weren't monsters from another world. They were Eric's rage, his manipulation, his violence. Lila had lived in a haunted house, but the ghost was a man she had once trusted, and now the house was silent. Second story. Just out of sight. As I write this, I'm frozen in fear. I can see it in the reflection, but whenever I turn, it's gone. I don't know what it is, just that it's getting closer. It whispers threats, and I feel trapped. It stays just out of sight. It started when I decided to reconnect with nature. Growing up in Michigan, nature meant hunting or fishing. My dad and I went hunting whenever we could. He was retired, and I was homeschooled, so our schedules were flexible. We hunted in the UP for bears, the West for turkeys, and Northeast Michigan for deer. Those trips were special, and I missed them, and my dad. I was born when my dad was older, 58, and my mom, his second wife, was 36. Some teased me about their age gap, but I never found it odd. My dad's retirement meant he always had time for me. When I was 19, my mom died of cancer. Grief overtook my dad, and he passed 2 years later. At 21, I had to focus on work to keep up with the house I inherited. Hunting became a dream. 3 years later, I finally made time, requesting all my vacation days for deer season. On November 15th, I drove to Huron National Forest with my lever-action rifle, a 2-person tent, my pit bull mix Maisie, and my dad's old truck. My girlfriend Clara stayed behind to watch the house. Before I left, she had a disturbing sleep talk episode. "You're gonna die out there." She dreamt a bear attacked me, but I dismissed it, assuring her I'd be fine. The drive was uneventful, and Maisie snoozed until we stopped for breakfast. At the first campsite, Maisie became unusually excited, staring downhill at a lean-to. Uneasy, I left and found another site farther into the woods. The new spot felt safer and had better cell service. That first night, Maisie was restless, spooked by every sound. At one point, I thought I saw a figure at the edge of the firelight, but it was only an afterimage. The next day, while scouting for deer, I spotted a promising tree surrounded by acorns and buckrubs. As I set up, a massive buck appeared. Just as I lined up my shot, it bolted, chased by something that moved like a man on all fours. I convinced myself it was a coyote. By day 5, I bagged the buck. As I stored the meat, I saw a figure darting across the clearing. That was enough. I packed up and left. On the way home, I noticed another lean-to, new and unsettlingly close to the road. At home, Clara was at work. I locked every door, covered the windows, and armed myself. That night, whispers began outside. "You stole from me. Give it back." Scratching followed, but when I looked, nothing was there. The next day, I stayed on edge. By evening, the front door unlocked, and I heard someone inside. I grabbed my shotgun, ready to defend myself, only to find Clara, who'd returned early. After I explained everything, she urged me to shower and rest. Feeling guilty, I placed the deer head outside, thinking it might appease whatever was following me. Now, I'm at the kitchen table. Clara forgot to lock the door, and I dozed off. I woke up to someone massaging my shoulders. Clara's still snoring in the bedroom. The buck's head is sitting on. Third story, the monolith. Until recently, I worked as a project manager for a covert government division focused on exploring human consciousness and unraveling the mysteries of the unknown. The things I've witnessed go beyond imagination and should never have been concealed. If you're reading this, I'm sorry for what's coming. My parents were relentless about my education, sacrificing everything to give me a future they never had. I didn't disappoint them. Top grades, a prestigious job, everything they hoped for. But even my strict father couldn't have foreseen where I'd end up. Working for a secretive branch of the government, tasked with uncovering truths too vast for human comprehension. I began as an analyst, but it didn't take long for the department to notice my aptitude. After a series of evaluations, I was transferred to a division researching psychic phenomena. I had abilities they found valuable, abilities that let me tap into realms few could even imagine. For years, I used my skills for remote viewing, assisting in locating foreign assets and military operations. Was it ethical? I don't know, but it felt important, and that was enough to keep me going. Over time, my responsibilities grew, and so did the secrets I carried. My family died believing I had a desk job, and my friendships never lasted long under the weight of my hidden life. When I was promoted to project manager, the real depth of our work was revealed. Recent UFO sightings, rebranded as UAPs, aren't alien crafts. They're entities. The department calls them seraphs, beings mistaken for angels throughout history. They've been here for centuries, but their visits have grown more frequent. Officially, no one knew why they came, but I wasn't satisfied with that answer. Late nights spent poring over classified files and bypassing security restrictions revealed fragments of a disturbing truth. It became clear why the 33rd floor of our headquarters was sealed off. It housed a device designed to communicate with these beings. Last week, I accessed it. The building's layout defies logic. It's filled with endless corridors and unsettling anomalies. Using my abilities, I located a hidden ladder leading to the forbidden floor. The climb felt infinite, the shaft stretching into impossible darkness. But I made it. The 33rd floor was eerily quiet, its brutalist architecture contrasting with cozy vintage furnishings, Persian rugs, dim lamps, and clunky old computers. At the end of a corridor lined with doors emitting strange, muffled sounds, I found what I was looking for. A room marked testing and research. Inside was no grand machine, as I had imagined, just a leather couch facing an old CRT television. On the couch sat a single remote with one red button. I pressed it. Inside was no grand machine, as I had imagined, just a leather couch facing an old CRT television. On the couch sat a single remote with one red button. I pressed it. The screen roared to life, flooding my mind with static and pulling me into an indescribable state. That's when I felt it. The seraph. It didn't speak, but its presence filled me with knowledge. It explained that our universe is just one room in a vast, interconnected house. The seraphs exist in a parallel space, always beside us, but unseen. Their visits aren't random. They're harvesting something, our souls. Human essence holds a unique significance to them, and they've chosen our time for their gathering. Yet, despite the grim revelations, I felt no fear. The seraph exuded calm, almost as if it was soothing me as it unraveled the truth. When the TV shut off, I panicked. I had learned too much. But before I could flee, security intercepted me. I remember surrendering, hands raised. But after that, my memory blanks. I woke up standing over two lifeless bodies. Blood was everywhere, and a broken lamp lay in my hand. I didn't wait to ask questions. I escaped down the ladder and fled the building, the metallic scent of blood clinging to me. 7 days have passed since then. I'm writing this from a library, constantly looking over my shoulder. The seraph still speaks to me, guiding my every move. I made a choice. I will help them. In exchange, they promised my soul's immortality. For once, I feel in control. If you're reading this, hold your loved ones close. The harvest is inevitable, and no one can escape it. We will find you. You cannot hide forever.